خودمون رو در قالب 10 بند بهشون ارائه کردیم. بر اساس این بند و قاعدتاً ملاحظات و نقطه نظراتی که طرف مقابل داشت در اسلام آباد بحث‌های مفصلی صورت گرفت. ماحصل اونها تبدیل شد به نوعی بسته که در جریان سفر آقای عاصم منیر به تهران مورد بررسی قرار گرفت. طبیعی است در روند مذاکراتی هر دو طرف نقطه نظراتشون رو بیان بکنن، به تناسب پیشنهاد طرف مقابل پیشنهادی بدن. این که از کلمه جدید نام برده میشه خیلی کلمه دقیقی نیست، چون مواضع ما خیلی روشن هست. ما برخلاف طرف مقابل که متاسفانه مدام مواضعش رو تغییر میده، خواسته هاش رو عوض میکنه، در سطح رسانه لفاظی های متناقضی انجام میده که قطعا کمکی نمیکنه به پیشبرد مذاکرات. واقعا در روندهای مذاکراتی ثابت قدم بودیم، چون میدونیم که چه مواردی مد نظرمون هست و چه مواردی رو نمیتونیم بپذیریم. بعضی از موارد خیلی سریع از ابتدا گفتیم برای ما قابل قبول نیست و اصرار زیاد بر روی اونها قرار نیست که تغییری در مواضع ما ایجاد بکنه. فکر میکنم مواضع بسیار معقول و منصفانه است. خیلی از مواردی که در رسانه ها گفته شده در مورد جزئیات موضوع، خب خودتون هم میتونید حدس بزنید، گمان زنی است، قابل تایید نیست. سیاست روس.
سلام، وقت بخیر. با تأکید بر این که شما فرمودین تا کنون تصمیمی گرفته نشده برای مذاکرات بعدی و اینکه برخی از رسانه‌ها مدعی شدن که تیم آمریکایی راهی پاکستان شده به ریاست آقای ون. من می‌خواستم بپرسم اگر به این نتیجه برسیم که بخواد مذاکرات از سر گرفته بشه و یک توافق احتمالی بخواد صورت بگیره با توجه به رفتارهای نامتعادل آمریکا و سیاست‌های دونالد ترامپ، آیا میشه به این توافق و به امضای آمریکا پای این توافق اعتماد کرد؟
چیکار کرد؟ اعتماد. مبنای ما طبیعی است که در مذاکرات با آمریکا حتما اعتماد نیست. هیچ اعتمادی بین ایران و آمریکا وجود نداره به دلیل خلافکاری‌های طولانی مدت و مستمری که انجام دادن. ما بر اساس منافع و مصالحمون تصمیم میگیریم. در مورد هر تفاهم یا توافق احتمالی هم باید به نحوی عمل بکنیم که اهرم‌های خودمون، توانمندی‌های خودمون تضمین کننده اجرای اون تفاهم باشه. این که در مورد هیئت آمریکا اینها سفر کردن یا گفتن میخوان سفر کنن، خب بحثی مربوط به خودشون است، ولی ما همونطور که عرض کردم به این دلیل خیلی روشن که واقعا نشانه جدی نمیبینیم در مورد جدیت آمریکا. برعکس نشانه های مکرر و متعدد هست از اینکه هیچ جدیتی در آمریکا مشاهده نمیشه برای پیشبرد دیپلماسی در معنای واقعی و متعارف آن و نه دیپلماسی به معنای دیکته کردن. فارس بفرمایید. علیکم السلام.
اگه لطف کنید، حالا من سوالم هم بودم پرسیده شد در خصوص هم پیشنهادی که آمریکا مطرح کرده، آیا بررسی های ایران تموم شده و پاسخ به طرف پاکستانی اعلام شده یا اینکه خیر؟ در خصوص نقض آتش بس توی لبنان هم اگه لطف کنید بفرمایید. خب این جزء یکی از یعنی شاهد بودیم این چند روز نقض آتش بس از سوی رژیم صهیونیستی صورت گرفت. این عملا در واقع به نوعی در واقع خلاف اون مفادی هست که بین ایران و آمریکا مورد توافق قرار گرفت. در این خصوص هم نظرتون بفرمایید. متشکرم.
دو سوال شد، کوتاه جواب میدم. سوال اولتون ادامه دارد. بخش دوم سوالتون بله، این هم یکی از نمونه‌های دیگری است که واقعا همه شاهدش هستن. طرف مقابل اینا همش گواه این هست که آمریکا ظاهراً در روند دیپلماتیک جدیتی نداره. پرستیوی.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Some Western media outlets have claimed that you mocked the request of Kaja Kallas, the EU foreign policy chief, to respect international law and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Is that true? برخی رسانه‌های غربی ادعا کردند که شما درخواست خانم کایا کالاس مسئول سیاست خارجی اتحادیه اروپا برای احترام به حقوق بین الملل و بازگشایی تنگه هرمز را مسخره کرده اید. آیا چنین چیزی صحت دارد؟ ممنونم.
ادبیات ما ادبیات مسخره کردن نیست. ادبیات ما خیلی جدی و مستدل هست. اون چیزی که ما برجسته کردیم در واکنش به درخواست مسئول سیاست خارجی اتحادیه اروپا از ایران برای رعایت حقوق بین الملل و بازگشایی تنگه هرمز جلب توجه اونها بود به نقض‌های فاحش حقوق بین الملل که بسیاری از کشورهای اروپایی و اتحادیه اروپایی متاسفانه مرتکب شدند. بحث این هست که شما نمیتوانید از حقوق بین الملل به عنوان یک ابزار دم دستی استفاده بکنید. هر جا که منافعتون اقتضا کرد کشورهای دیگر رو متهم به نقض حقوق بین الملل بکنید و هر جا که منافعتون اقتضا کرد به راحتی یا نادیده بگیرید نقض حقوق بین الملل رو یا خودتون هم همدست بشید در نقض حقوق بین الملل. در مورد اتحادیه اروپا واقعا این 2-3 سال عملکردشون روشن هست. موضعشون در قبال نسل کشی هولناک در غزه چه بود؟ موضعشون در قبال حمله آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی به ایران چه بود؟ در قبال جنایات جنگی که آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی در ایران مرتکب شدند، جنایاتی که در لبنان دارن مرتکب میشن، اینها چیست؟ در رابطه با تنگه هرمز اتحادیه اروپایی نمیتواند فقط به خاطر نگرانی از قیمت سوخت ایران رو شماتت بکنه، در حالی که میداند عامل و بانی این وضعیت آمریکا بوده. بنابراین درخواست ما از اتحادیه اروپایی این هست که بر اساس واقعیت‌ها نظر بده، موضع بگیره و نه صرفاً در راستای خوشنودسازی آمریکا. مردم سالاری.
سلام عرض ادب.
علیکم السلام.
به موضوع فرایندی که منجر به آتشبس موقت شد و به تبع اون نشست اسلام آباد، ما شاهد افزایش تحرکات دیپلماتیک پکن و مسکو در رابطه با ایران بودیم. اولا نگاه تهران به رویکرد شرکای شرقی چی است؟ ثانیاً در خلال تبادل ارتباطاتی که بوده، آیا سیگنال مشخصی از سمت شرکای شرقی یعنی روسیه و چین در رابطه با ایفای نقش جدی‌تر به عنوان میانجی یا ضامن امنیتی به عنوان عضو شورای امنیت دریافت شده ایم؟ مرسی.
من قبلا عرض کردم ما ضامن امنیتی انحصاری ایران مردم ایران هستند. این یک. دو، در اینکه همه کشورها مسئولیت دارند در قبال تعهداتشون وفق منشور سازمان ملل متحد و حقوق بین الملل تردید نیست. مسئولیت کشورهای عضو دائم شورای امنیت بیشتر هست. ما از روسیه و چین به خاطر اقدام مسئولانشون در وتو قطعنامه‌ای که حقیقتاً قطعنامه‌ای بود کاملاً ضد صلح و مغایر با واقعیت‌ها تشکر می‌کنیم. در تماس مستمر هستیم هم با چین و هم با روسیه و فکر می‌کنیم که نهایتاً به نفع کل جامعه بین‌المللی است که آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی رو به خاطر قانون شکنی بسیار پرتبعاتی که در منطقه ما انجام دادند پاسخگو بکنن. این پاسخگویی هم در چارچوب سازمان ملل متحد و شورای امنیت میتونه صورت بگیره و هم در سایر چارچوب‌های منطقه‌ای مثل بریکس و شانگهای که هم روسیه و هم چین نقش بسیار مهمی میتونن داشته باشن. پانا بفرمایید.
سلام آقای دکتر، وقت بخیر. آقای دکتر، سوال من راجع به پیش شرط‌های مذاکرات هست. آیا ایران برای دور بعدی مذاکرات مانند دور پیشین پیش شرط‌هایی را تعیین می‌کنه و رفع محاصره دریایی میتونه یکی از گزینه‌های ما برای پیش شرط مذاکرات احتمالی آتی باشه یا خیر؟
ببینید پیش شرط ما، شما میتونید اسمشو پیش شرط بذارید، شرط بذارید، ولی موضوع ما بسیار موضوع معقولی است. مبنای ما منافع ملی ایران هست. ما هیچ چیزی اضافه بر حقوق و منافع ملی ایران از کسی انتظار نداریم. اجازه نمیدیم حقوق منافع ملی ایران به خاطر قلدری دیگران تضییع بشه. در رابطه با وضعیت الان من توضیح دادم، خودتون خیلی روشن میتونید صورت مسئله رو ببینید. ما مواجهیم با نقض آتش بس در زمانی که در دوره‌ای که قرار بوده این وقفه صورت بگیره. هم در لبنان شاهد هستید نقض آتش بس، هم به زعم خودشون محاصره دریایی ایران و هم تعرض به یک کشتی تجاری که همه اینها هم نقض فاحش حقوق بین الملل و منشور سازمان ملل متحد هست و هم نقض صریح آتش بس. در چنین مواردی، در چنین وضعیتی واقعا چگونه می شود به ادعای آمریکا برای مصالحه و دیپلماسی اعتماد کرد؟ تسلیم.
عرض سلام و احترام دارم خدمت شما جناب دکتر. یک نشست 4 جانبه‌ای در ترکیه با حضور وزرای خارجه ترکیه، مصر، پاکستان و عربستان برگزار شد و در آن خصوص در خصوص مذاکرات صلح و همچنین تنگه هرمز هم اظهار نظراتی بیان شد و ادعاهایی هم همچنین در خصوص تنگه هرمز بیان شد. اولا می‌خواستم واکنش شما را نسبت به این ادعاها درباره تنگه هرمز و نقش ایران و پاسخ ایران به تجاوزات آمریکا رژیم صهیونیستی بدونم و دوم اینکه در رایزنی با این کشورها، حالا آقای دکتر خطیب زاده هم در ترکیه تشریف داشتن، آیا رایزنی با این کشورها در این خصوص انجام شده؟ پاسخ ایران چه بوده؟ ممنون.
تماس‌های ما که با این کشورها به صورت مستمر ادامه داره. در مورد تنگه ما هیچ کار غیر قانونی انجام ندادیم. دلیلش روشن هست. ایران مورد هجمه آمریکا و اسرائیل قرار گرفت. آمریکا از پایگاه‌های نظامی مستقر در طرف مقابل تنگه هرمز برای هماهنگی، اجرا و پشتیبانی از تجاوز نظامیش علیه ایران استفاده کرد. در شرایط تعرض نظامی کشور ساحلی مجاز هست تدابیر رو اتخاذ بکنه برای جلوگیری از تجاوز نظامی کشورهای متجاوز. در نظر داشته باشیم که تنگه هرمز بخش عمده‌اش آبهای سرزمینی ایران هست. لذا کاری که ایران انجام داد در راستای تأمین منافع ملی ایران، نه برای یک اقدام تجاوزکارانه بلکه در یک اقدام دفاعی از خود صورت گرفت. بله، ما متوجه هستیم که خیلی از کشورها از این وضعیت متأثر شدند، متضرر شدند، اما راه برخورد با این وضعیت این نیست که آدرس اشتباهی بدن، ایران رو بخوان ملامت بکنند. باید طرفی که عامل این وضعیت هست، یعنی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی رو مخاطب قرار بدن. بفرمایید. بفرمایید.
سلام آقای بقایی، وقت شما بخیر باشه. سوال من این هستش که پاکستان در حالی که برای میانجیگری توی جنگ ایران داره ایفای نقش میکنه، خودش درگیر جنگ با افغانستانه. آیا این امکان وجود داره که ایران هم نقشی مشابه رو برای پایان دادن به مناقشات پاکستان و طالبان ایفا بکنه؟
ایران کشوری صلح طلب هست. واقعا تمایل قلبی ما این هست که در منطقه پیرامونیمون همواره صلح و ثبات برقرار باشه. شما در نظر داشته باشید که در اولین پیام مقام معظم رهبری به مناسبت سال نو، یکی از موضوعاتی که ایشون مد نظر قرار دادن همین بحث منازعه پاکستان و افغانستان بود و اعلام آمادگی شد برای اینکه ایران هر کمکی که بتواند در راستای صلح، برقراری آرامش بین دو کشور انجام بده ایفای نقش بکنه. بنابراین حتما ما هر کمکی که بتونیم در این رابطه انجام بدیم دریغ نخواهیم کرد. آنا.
وقت خیر آقای سخنگو.
متشکرم.
آقای بقایی، شما اخیراً یک مصاحبه داشتید، خیلی شفاف و صریح گفتید که اورانیوم غنی شده برای ایران مقدسه و تاکید هم کردید که انتقال اورانیوم غنی شده ایران به آمریکا هیچ وقت روی میز مذاکره نبوده و قرار هم نیست که باشه. با این حال شاهد هستیم که هر روز به صف کشورهایی که به نوعی مطالبه دارند برای تحویل اورانیوم و مشارکت در رقیق سازی اون افزوده میشه. به صورت علنی ما این تقاضا را از جانب روسیه داشتیم و همینطور اخبار در واقع تایید نشده داریم مبنی بر پیشنهاد مشابه در خصوص چین و پاکستان. هم نظر شما رو درباره این مورد میخواستم بپرسم و همین که اگر بهم اجازه بدید از شما بپرسم که اصرارتون مبنی بر تقدس اورانیوم از کجا ناشی میشه و یک توضیحی درباره این به ما بدید ممنونتون میشم.
البته اگر کلیپ صحبت‌های من رو نگاه بکنید من به این شکل نگفتم. من عرض کردم همونطور که خاک ایران برای ما مقدس و مهم هست، اورانیوم غنی شده هم برای ما حائز اهمیت هست. این بیانی بود که من مطرح کردم. ولی یه چیز خدمتتون عرض بکنم، به نظرم هم جان ایرانی مقدس است هم دارایی ایرانی. هر آنچه که محصول فکر و اندیشه و خون و عرق جسم و روان و روح ایرانی است برای ما ارزشمند است و مقدس است. از این باب میتونیم بگیم همونطور که جان ایرانیان برای ما ارزشمند و مقدس است، هر آنچه که به عنوان دارایی ایران محسوب میشد برای ما به همون اندازه ارزشمند هست و برای پاسداشتش باید تلاش بکنیم. ببینید بحث هسته‌ای خیلی در موردش صحبت شده. بحث هسته‌ای و علم و دانشی که
We are all Iranians and we need to work hard in this regard. Also, they spoke a lot about the nuclear program and the scientific achievement in this regard. The scientific achievement in this regard is an example of how ready is Iran to reach the top level of sciences. The enemies are not happy with that. The enemies have started 2 wars at least against us, in addition to blockade described by them as fatal blockade against Iran. We need to achieve a lot of progress, and these matters are important for us. We need to exert more efforts, and throughout the last 40 days, the enemies have targeted certain things, including universities and scientific centers and research centers. This means that our enemy is against scientific development and welfare in Iran. They treat this like a problem. The second question is about the enriched uranium to be removed. During these talks and before that, the Americans spoke a lot about this matter, but the enriched uranium being removed has not been mentioned at all during these talks. For the time being, no one talks about an agreement or reaching peace. There is no certain position to say that peace is there or a war will be there. In this case, no peace and no war. Is it for the sake of America and the Zionist entity, or for the sake of Iran? I have 2 questions regarding the contradiction in the statements of the U.S. officials. For one side, they confirm the maritime blockade in response to the Iranian position to open the Strait of Hormuz. Can we see any positivity in this matter, or any positivity for the talks to reach something important. I don't have enough time, but I will answer only one question. We are not generally not optimistic and not pessimistic regarding the talks. The experiences, not only for the last year, but throughout the last 50 or 60 or 70 years in the past, the experiences led us to be more realistic to an extent that we can say we are, for example, not optimistic against the American situations. This is very rational way of thinking. This is very wise to think that way. A question regarding the unbalanced attitude of the American president, claims from him that he had a phone contact with the Iranians and he was raising his voice during that phone contact. What about this claim? Is it right or is it part of the media claims? From the very beginning, there was no any chance for someone to raise his voice or speak loudly with the Iranians. In these circumstances, what about the situation in the Strait of Hormuz that seems to be never back before, like before the war? Iran has maintained during the years and years have maintained the security in the Strait of Hormuz despite all terrorism. How can we see these very strange situations from others? You are from an area that is close to the parliament, and you know undoubtedly that the regime in the country, in Iran, the Islamic Shura Council, the Supreme Security Council, all these authorities are doing their job for the sake of the people and for the sake of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Also, when it comes to some matters that you mentioned, coordination with the Iranian Foreign Ministry is ongoing, and we follow up matters within this connection. Regarding the expectations and the analyst proposals, and some people talk about the presence of the American vice president in the talks. Some people say they want to affect and influence the Republicans in the states. There are some analysts saying that there is no concrete call for war, but if...
That is Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson saying there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the United States for now. He also went on to say that the US has shown it's not serious about pursuing any diplomatic process after it's committed aggressive acts and violated the ceasefire a number of times. I'm going to be speaking to our correspondent in Islamabad, where those talks are due to happen in just a moment. But first, we're going to go to the Iranian capital for more reaction. Tawhid Asadi is live for us there. Tawhid, from what we heard from the foreign ministry spokesperson, that doesn't bode particularly well for a diplomatic solution to any of this anytime soon.
Yes, indeed. First and foremost, we heard this very important sentence from him that he said, as of now, as I'm here with you, We have no plans to take part in the negotiations, and no decision has been met in that regard so far. And that so far is critically important, as the clock is ticking, and we are still waiting to see whether Iran is going to go through the trajectory of diplomacy. However, what we heard from the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs during his press conference is not that of a positive vibe when it comes to such a potentiality. Also, we heard from him that naval blockade and attack on Iranian commercial ship is breach of agreement.
You've just watched Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei address the media, where he confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Ismail Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process and committed aggressive acts and violated ceasefire provisions. He said, "We cannot forget the U.S. attacks on us during previous negotiations," of course referring to the negotiations that took place just before the start of this war. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei held a news conference where he confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Ismail Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of the ceasefire. He said, "We cannot forget U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations," referring to the attacks that took place just when the two were on the verge of a ceasefire and negotiations at the beginning of this war. He said the U.S. is not learning its lessons from its experiences. He said the U.S. violated the talks twice, attacked Iran, killed citizens, and targeted infrastructure. He also said that the Americans are playing the game of blaming Iran for hostilities. Iran probed whether Indian vessels were targeted, and he said that America is not serious at all. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei held a news conference where he confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. He said the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of the ceasefire provisions. He said that we cannot forget the U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations. Joining us now is senior analyst Fahad Hussain, who's going to brief us further on the press conference that just took place. What do you think is next, Fahad, after this new unprecedented development?
Yes, of course, it's a very alarming development because it goes to show that the good vibes that we were getting over the weekend now seem to have evaporated, and the act of hostility by the U.S. Navy has now led to a situation where it seems that the talks in Islamabad that we were all hoping would take place are now probably hard to say whether when they would happen, but clearly there is a problem if the Iranians don't come. So I think it is clearly a very disturbing development, and I think I don't think I have any ambiguity in saying that it is a direct result of the uncertain kind of steps that the U.S. side is taking, and specifically the way that the U.S. president is approaching these talks through a mixture of threats and belligerence. Obviously, that would have led to an Iranian response, and we are seeing that response right now in the shape of their foreign ministry spokesman saying that they will not attend talks right now. So I think there's a challenge for Pakistan now to try and salvage the situation. Perhaps there is still some space available to bring the two sides together. It is going to be tough. There is no doubt about it. But I think we've come so far, so I think we can still hope that some sort of a opening can take place. Some flexibility from the American side could probably prompt the Iranians to come and take part in the negotiation. But obviously, right now things look a bit discouraging.
Do you think this development possibly has something to do with the threats made by the Houthis yesterday for the closure of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, with Iran possibly attempting to put all of its cards on the table with respect to leverage in further negotiations in the future?
I mean, I don't think it's a direct result of that, because a threat is a threat and, not an action. But the way that the U.S. Navy fired upon an Iranian ship, then boarded it and took control of it, I think that has really prompted this response from Iran. And also, before that happened, if you remember, President Trump issued a very harsh message in which he said that if the Iranians don't take the deal that he is giving them, then he would now target their energy infrastructure and power plants, etc., etc. So I think, if you're going into a round of talks, then that's the last thing that you should be doing. Unfortunately, even though the American side had declared openly that they would be sending a delegation here to Islamabad, and that the Vice President J.D. Vance would also be coming, but despite that, I think the approach or the attitude that is on display from Washington is clearly not conducive to talks, and I think Iran has a right to be distrustful of U.S. actions, because at least twice, they've attacked Iran while negotiations were underway. So I don't think Iran is to blame, but clearly if Pakistan can now step up its diplomatic role even more and try and see if in a day or two somehow both sides can step back, specifically the Americans first, and then, the Iranians could come to Islamabad and have another round of talks. I mean, that's the hope, but I think the challenge, the nature of the challenge has become much more higher, both for us as well as for, the two sides.
We've also gone through the motions recently, trying to make sense of all of the demands that are being made by each side in the coming days and the following days as well. What do you think is the primary deadlock? Is it the uranium issue? Is it the Strait of Hormuz? Or is it everything all at once? And where does the U.S. stand? And where does the Iran stand in this conflict with respect to negotiations? I think it would be helpful for our viewers to have a bit of a recap.
Well, sure. I think that the main issue, of course, is the nuclear issue. The Iranian nuclear program and the dispute over enrichment of uranium. That remains the core of the problem. And I think the distance between American position and Iranian position remains quite wide, despite the fact that there has been some give and take in the first round. So that remains the core issue. Of course, linked to that is the issue of sanctions, as well as the freezing of Iranian funds. So these are all linked together, and I think Iran now is basing its position on what the level of talks in Geneva and the demands they had put there, and the agenda points that they were willing to accommodate in Geneva. So I think they're basing their arguments or their position from there. The Americans, of course, started with zero enrichment and now have also softened up a bit. So that's the key issue. And I think, given the fact that Field Marshal Asim Munir spent a couple of days in Iran, one can say safely that it was, this issue, this debate or this disagreement over the nuclear issue, which he was trying to bridge. And the fact that the Americans decided to send a delegation here means that there was some progress, some headway, some accommodation from the Iranian side, which convinced the American president to agree to a second round of talks. Now, if that was the case, which one assumes would be, then I don't understand why the U.S. president had to spoil the whole atmosphere by start threatening Iran again and then actually taking action and taking control of their ships. So I think we were coasting well. Islamabad had done its work. We were ready for talks. First on Monday, then maybe Tuesday, because we were told that the American delegation would be coming to Islamabad on Monday evening. So everything was set, and now suddenly, all of a sudden, the Americans have launched these aggressive moves, and obviously Iran had to respond. So it's very unfortunate that we were so close to having the two sides together again, and now again the whole process is shrouded in a bit of uncertainty.
And let's address the elephant in the room. The ceasefire was supposed to expire on the 22nd of April, if I'm correct. Do you think it will expire, or will we see an extension of it in some form, or is this it and hostilities are going to renew?
Well, that's a $1 million question, because I think everything was pegged to the expiry of this ceasefire. And we were all expecting that, if nothing else, there would be some sort of an announcement saying that while the negotiations were going on, the ceasefire would be extended for X number of days. And that is the key point around which the entire situation hinges, because once the ceasefire expires and the two sides start firing at each other, then it would be very difficult to bring them back again, and the chances of a rapid escalation after that would become very, very serious. So that is the key point, and there is, I think right now, given the fact that the Iranians have said that they're not willing to come to Pakistan as of now, which to me means that they still have, they've left a little bit of space for themselves in case they decide to change their mind after, if the Iranians can, if the Americans can show some flexibility. But the ceasefire deadline is upon us, and I think Pakistan's priority number one right now would be to somehow have the two sides agree on extending the ceasefire, even if they're not coming to Islamabad to sit face to face. I think that's priority number one. And if that were to happen, which we all hope would happen, then at least we are not going back to a hot war. And there is still a chance that through negotiations, through some intensive diplomacy, the two sides can come and start talking. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the key target, to see that the ceasefire doesn't break down and is extended for however many days is possible.
And do you see this escalation also spreading to the Lebanese front, where there is also reports of a ceasefire, although various violations have been cited, but do you see a reopening of hostilities over there in a far more open manner than we've seen recently?
That's a very important point, and thank you for raising that, because I think that is connected to how things could go wrong. We know that Israel is not in favor of this ceasefire. We also know that the Americans have forced Israel to hold talks with Lebanon and stop their aggression. President Trump actually said this in very clear terms in one of his tweets, where he said that the U.S. has prohibited Israel from launching any more attacks in Lebanon. So it is clear that the Israelis have done whatever they have done in terms of the ceasefire under U.S. pressure. They would be itching to break that ceasefire, knowing fairly well that if that ceasefire breaks, then it will be far more easier for the ceasefire on Iran to also break, which is what they would want. So they've always been the spoilers, and now they will probably see an opportunity to spoil this whole thing. So that is another important, really important and huge challenge for America, because it is only Washington who can put a leash on Israel. So I think we'll have to see that very carefully. And yes, the real danger is that Israel could create mischief on the Lebanese side to ensure that the ceasefire here breaks and then full-fledged war starts. Very, very important point.
And also the way the oil markets reacted to news of a ceasefire or an ending of hostilities at all with respect to the peace talks was also very sharp. But now that we've seen Iran officially saying that they don't have plans to conduct any talks with the U.S. presently, do you think the oil market is going to brace for a whole new era of change where different supply lines are being bolstered in anticipation of a continued prolonged conflict in the region?
I think that's safe to say, because over the weekend, when there were signs that the talks would actually take place in Islamabad and both sides were saying the right things, the markets had responded. Oil price had dipped below 100. I think it was around 96, 97. And of course now, given this latest situation, there will be a direct impact, and the markets are already responding negatively, and oil prices will certainly go up. So after a hopeful weekend, we are back to the fresh dangers of a war again breaking out. Of course, I think we have time. Pakistan has time. There can still be some sort of a breakthrough, but it will require far more effort than one could have imagined only 24 or 48 hours ago. And I think that also goes to show the really delicate, sensitive, and inflammable nature of this conflict, where the level of mistrust between the two sides is so enormous that even a small little thing, even change of tone or the wrong kind of words can have a domino effect, and that's exactly what we've seen happening, unfortunately.
Well, thank you, Fahad, so much for your valuable insight once again. We hope you'll join us soon. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has held news conference where he confirmed that there is currently no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process and committed aggressive acts as well as ceasefire violations. He said that we cannot forget the U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations. He was quoted as saying that the U.S. is not learning lessons from its past experiences, stating that the U.S. violated talks twice, attacked Iran, killed citizens, and targeted infrastructure. He accused Americans of playing the game of blaming Iran during this conflict. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has held a news conference where he confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Baghaei cited that the U.S. is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process and that the U.S. has committed aggressive acts as well as ceasefire violations. He said that we cannot forget the U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations. He said the U.S. is not learning lessons from its past experiences, also saying that the U.S. violated talks twice, attacked Iran, killed citizens, targeted infrastructure. He said the U.S. has broken its promise regarding the ceasefire in Lebanon, citing yet another reason for the recent development. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson has confirmed that there is currently no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing the U.S. of committing aggressive acts as well as various ceasefire violations. He said that we cannot forget U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations. He was quoted as saying that the U.S. is not learning lessons from its experiences, citing attacking of Iran, the killing of citizens, and the targeting of civilian infrastructure. He said Americans are playing the blame game, blaming Iran for everything that goes wrong in this conflict. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has held a news conference where he has confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. He said there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. Iran's Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of ceasefire provisions. He said we cannot forget the U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations, citing the beginning of this conflict. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has held a news conference stating that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Baghaei said the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of the ceasefire provisions. He said we cannot forget about U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations. He was quoted as saying that the U.S. is not learning lessons from its experiences. He said the U.S. violated talks twice, attacked Iran, killed citizens, and targeted civilian infrastructure. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has confirmed in a news conference that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. Iran's Baghaei says the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of ceasefire provisions. He said we cannot forget the U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations, saying that the U.S. is not learning lessons from its past experiences. He cited the violation of the talks twice by the U.S., the attacking of Iran, the killing of civilians as well as the targeting of civilian infrastructure. He was quoted as saying that the Americans are playing the blame game. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghaei has held a news conference where he confirmed that there is no plan for a second round of negotiations with the U.S. for now. He said the U.S. has shown it is not serious about pursuing the diplomatic process, accusing it of committing aggressive acts and violations of the ceasefire provisions. He said we cannot forget U.S. attacks on Iran during previous negotiations, citing the beginning of this conflict. He said the U.S. is not learning lessons from its experiences and that the U.S. violated the talks twice, attacked Iran, killed citizens, and targeted civilian infrastructure.